I want to start by thanking you very much for inviting me to give you your charge, to give the charge to the one, the only, and the great class of 2011. I was overjoyed when I got the invitation because, as I construe it, the invitation meant that you wanted to spend some of your free time with me. Time is always something that is very precious, but it is especially precious at this time when your time as law students is so short. I get to stand here and just be with you for a little while before there is no more time of this kind left. That was a very generous thing for you to do for me, and I thank you for it. Now, to say that I get to just stand here and be with you isn't exactly accurate, at least not at this stage of the event, because by accepting your invitation, I took on the obligation to help you try to make sense and reflect on the meaning of what you have accomplished during these 3 years, as well as on the meaning of what is to come. Speaking of these 3 years, I really want to thank you for them. Thank you for choosing to spend these 3 important years of your lives here at UVA Law School. Each of you had many options. You had other law school options, you had other professional career paths that you might have taken altogether, and yet you chose to attend this law school, and we are forever in your debt for having made that choice. It's a debt that we can never fully repay, though we will try to do so. And before I leave off thanking you for coming here, I suppose, and I imagine that you know how important each and every one of you is to us. I live here and I work here. Without you, there literally is no here for me. So I am, like the rest of the faculty, in your debt. You've made all the difference to us. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your hard work, for your patience. We thank you for your decent and kind treatment of your faculty, for your wise counsel to us about how to improve this institution, not just for yourselves, but for the students who will come after you. So let's talk about now. Right now, you are on the verge of making a momentous transition, really a set of momentous transitions. Most of you will soon be moving away from this physical space. In a very short time, you will not be physically present with us. When the fall comes, we will be looking for you. We will look, but we won't find you. We won't find you in our law school hallways, classrooms, or grounds. You'll have moved on. You'll be living in other places. More important, you are moving into a whole new set of institutional and professional relationships and commitments with each other and with your law faculty. In a very short time, you're no longer going to be each other's classmates, and you're no longer going to be our students. Instead, you will be full-fledged lawyers pursuing a whole range of different kinds of work. You're going to be professional colleagues to each other, and you will be professional colleagues to us. No matter how you feel about these impending developments, and as I look at your faces, I imagine you're having an array of different feelings, different emotions. But no matter how you're feeling, this is a very, very big deal. And it's important, perhaps necessary, to pause and to reflect on what it has meant. You entered law school and you're entering the profession at a tumultuous time. I have a feeling that you know this. You've noticed, right? Right, okay. Yes, that's meant to be a joke. You've noted this. You've noticed, haven't you, right? I'm sure many people have told you this. I'm not the first one to point this out to you. I'm sure you've also been told that we've weathered tough, tumultuous times before. I also am sure that you've been told that this adversity that you have gone through and that you continue to face, carries a whole array of wonderful silver linings for you. And I believe those things to be true. We have weathered and thrived and survived through tough, tumultuous times before, and I know and believe that that will be the case for each of you. But that sort of advice doesn't take account of your real concerns, your real worries, your anxieties in the here and now. And I want to be sure to do that. Time is short, So, again, let me be blunt. I imagine that you applied to law school with one set of narratives in mind, one set of life stories for yourselves, stories about your professional objectives, your professional trajectory. And when you arrived at the law school, almost at the moment you arrived, events that were happening out there in the world upended at least some of these stories. This was a very difficult experience for you. There's no question about that. And from what I've seen and from what I've heard, you have managed it and you are continuing to manage it with courage, with grace, and good cheer. I'm going to share with you just one of my vivid memories from the fall semester of your first year. On September 26, 2008, the Virginia Law Review hosted a symposium to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The symposium was important, it was substantive, it was provocative. The keynote speaker at the symposium was Chief Judge Frank Easterbrook from the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. He gave the keynote speech right here in Caplin Pavilion. The title of his talk was "The Race for the Bottom in Corporate Law," and his thesis was a familiar one, and it's one with which many sensible and wise people agree. So here's the thesis without a lot of nuance. His idea was that government regulation tends to be bad and private markets tend to be good. I have heard countless speeches at the law school in my 16 years here, and this one almost surely would be just another memory, but for the context in which it occurred and for conversations that I had with many of you about it. You see, in the weeks immediately before Judge Easterbrook stood here at this podium, some things had happened out there in the world where you were studying to go. Lehman Brothers had just gone into bankruptcy, for example. Banks of all shapes and sizes were dropping like flies. On the very day of Judge Easterbrook's speech, we learned that savings and loan giant Washington Mutual had failed, and of course Congress was doing what Congress does. They were up there in Washington, D.C., brawling over exactly what it was that should be done, could be done, to fix the crisis in the financial markets. So I was feeling pretty worried about these things when I was sitting here in the audience listening to Judge Easterbrook. And when he mentioned none of them in his remarks, I began to feel a mild sense of panic. I want to be fair. I want to be scrupulously fair. I saw then, just as I see now, that it was too much to expect him to drop his prepared remarks. It was too much to expect him to drop his prepared remarks and to apply his considerable knowledge about markets to the meltdown that was taking place at that moment. He was giving an important speech. He'd been asked to give it a long time in the past. He must have written his remarks weeks or days earlier. So this was an important event, and it was about a topic that was related, but different from the problems that were occurring on Wall Street. And of course, as I'm sure you all know, there are very serious risks for a speaker who decides to go off script in the middle of an important speech. I've learned that the hard way. You will learn that the hard way. But still, I left the room, I left the Caplin Pavilion feeling very uneasy, because my sense was that at that time someone had to go off script. Someone somewhere had to step up and begin the task of deciding whether our received wisdom, our familiar methodologies, were going to do the task, do the work that needed to be done to secure your futures. So I was wondering who would do this. And then, as I was walking back to my office, I was planning to go upstairs and wring my hands with my colleagues. I ran into several of you, and yes, it was you. It was first-year students. And we stopped and we talked about Judge Easterbrook's speech. And you made it clear that you too had wanted and expected to get more from it, that you wanted and expected more from the folks up in Washington. But more particularly, what I heard then was that you wanted more at this difficult time from your law faculty. And I hope that we've been able to give you some of the things that you need. What I did see in those conversations that day and in many subsequent ones was this: you are the ones who can and will do better. Face it, you have no choice, you have to. But I also saw that you would push us to do better, for we are your faculty and we owe it to you. My ardent hope is that you will continue to do that work for us and with us. Continue to tell us what you need. Continue to let us know what will make your lives successful going forward. Help us to develop the new scripts, really whole new strategies, ones that are resilient and responsive to the needs and challenges that you're going to face in this changing world. So now I have some very homely advice for you. I've given this advice to some of you in my classes over the years, so please bear with me as I repeat myself, and I'm betting that you will bear with me because, as you know, time is very short. We don't have much time left. I love you, and I have a few important things that I want you to keep in mind as you begin to make the transition to these new spaces, these new contexts in which you'll be living and working. First, you should try to take more responsibility and less credit. And here's what I have in mind. When it comes to taking responsibility, I encourage you to step up and be active right from the start. Take responsibility for the small stuff, take responsibility for the big stuff. Make the job your own, even if you are not the commander of the case or the deal, right from the beginning. Make it yours. It's your responsibility. I also think that sometimes you should take more responsibility than is justly yours. When things go wrong, you're going to be embarrassed. You might even be really embarrassed. I can't begin to tell you the times that I've been embarrassed. One of the worst things happened this past fall semester when I made a terrible blooper in my first-year class and sort of ranted and raved at this first-year student about a statute that wasn't in the case and had to come back and fix it. I was so embarrassed. When things go wrong, you'll be embarrassed. But don't point the finger at colleagues, and please, please, whatever you do, don't try to pass the buck to your staff. You can fix most mistakes. There are a few fatal mistakes, very, very few, fortunately. Most of them you can fix, and that is what you should do. As for taking credit, my advice is just the opposite. The one thing that I've learned around here, around the law school, and this is mostly from watching very effective and well-respected colleagues over the years, you should take less credit than you would like to receive, and even less credit that you suppose you are due. This is very hard advice to follow because we all like to get credit, okay? But I think you should try it anyway. In the long run, what you want to do is to obtain a good result. You want to get good things done in the world, and those good things are outside you. They're not about you, or at least they're not completely about you. Those good things usually are created by many hands. So my advice is to step out of the way once in a while, at least once in a while. When the good results are won, step out of the way. Share the credit for your good work with others, including with your colleagues, and again, the members of your staffs. In addition to fixing mistakes that you make in your work, please fix mistakes you make in handling your friendships, both professional and personal. You can and should be hard on the work. You want to get stuff right, so be really tough on the work itself. Do the best job you can. But don't be personally hard on your colleagues, your assistants, your staff, or even on your adversaries. When you make a mistake of this sort, don't pretend that you didn't. Don't pretend that you didn't fly off the handle if you did, right? Just come right back, fix it, apologize, and clear the air. Sometimes you'll find, and it's very sad when you do, there are some people for whom there is no air to clear, right? But you won't know that. You won't know that to be the case unless you try. And last, and now I'm coming to my conclusion, most important of all, please do not go it alone. When you are in doubt or in trouble or in pain, when you reach an impasse or a crisis of judgment or conscience, a material crisis, a change in circumstance, you should ask for advice. You should ask for help, for comfort, for for refuge. For starters, I think you should turn to each other. I think you should turn to the people in this room, people who you trust, respect, and admire. And I see some of you turning, so go ahead, do it. Really, no, I want you to. Look at each other. Look, turn, look. Look. Right? Here's the point, and your good friends are the best mirrors. Here's the point. All you have is now. It's right here, it's in the room. But the future awaits you. I'm going to give you a secret. In the future, you're going to age, right? You're going to grow, you're going to mature, but you will age too. And as you age, it's incredibly wonderful to stay connected with the friends of your youth. Because as you mature, they will continue to see your beautiful faces shining through. They absolutely will. So spend some time looking at each other, right? Much more important, these people, each other, you know each other, you understand each other, you will listen to each other, you know each other's strengths, you know each other's dreams and aspirations, you know each other's foibles. So you can tell each other candidly, here's what's on my mind. You can take advice. You can learn from each other in the future what it is good and right to do. And here's the other thing. No matter where you go, no matter what stage of your career, no matter what questions arise, always come back and ask your faculty and your deans for their advice and assistance. As I said before, we are in your debt, powerfully so. And we will never make good on that debt until each of you is settled well and happily in your professional and personal lives. I've been trying to think of the appropriate metaphor for the law school. When I was graduating, my faculty told us that the law school was a bridge or a threshold. The law school was a green card. It gave us a ticket, a safe passage to spaces unknown, spaces outside the law school. But here's the secret about UVA Law School. You never, ever leave us, and we never, ever leave you. That sounds a little like a nightmare, right? It sounds like the libel show, right? Welcome to the Hotel UVA Law School. But I mean something specific, and here's what it is. This is your home. You have many homes, but this is one of them. And you are about to put your feet on a road that will take you away from here. But the road always also brings you back home. So please keep in touch and send us word. We do not stay up late, so we will tuck in bed early. But when we receive word that you are coming home, whether we've heard from you frequently or rarely or never, as I said, the lights will be on, and in the morning we will greet you with open arms. So farewell, my dear ones. Farewell, dear class of 2011.